In this episode of the Mad Bell podcast, we sit down with Chief Floyd Wise from Harrisburg City Fire Department and Chief Nick Miller from Station 58 here in Schuylkill County, who's the chair of the SOG committee and sort of the person that spearheaded the officer development courses coming up here for Schuylkill County and surrounding area officers. This podcast is all about that, and we touch on professionalism, some other rabbit hole topics. Hope you enjoy.
I'm telling you, Red Bull will be good.
So,
Red Bull, I'm in.
that's funny. Red, actually, of all things we should be drinking, it's not Red Bull because it's going to destroy your gut. But
I know.
we do survive probably way too much on energy drinks, coffee, and nicotine.
It is probably like short of like an occasional cigar. That's probably my vice. Like, heroin and cocaine is frowned upon. So I guess Red Bull, peach flavored Red Bull is as close as I can
It's
get.
as close as we can get.
Without getting locked up.
What if I get you Royal Crown Peach and Red Bull?
Look, it's going to be a fun day.
Oh, good.
That sounds good. Let's wait until after the seminar for that, please. If this wasn't so impromptu, I would have sent both of you a care package before starting this podcast. My bad. Sorry, there's no budget, so it is what it is.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a non-Nick Martin budget.
That's right. So I guess we'll now that the early banter has come to a close, we'll get started. Welcome back to the Mad Bell podcast. This is a side project I started for a couple of reasons. One, to find the lighter side of the fire service. Two, get information out there to the local fire service, although it might not be widespread, that's fine. But there's these opportunities that come to us, and I think sometimes the volunteer fire service doesn't take training, officer development, and just the professional side of the volunteer fire service enough. They don't take enough. We don't take it serious enough. So I reached out to Floyd. Floyd and I have talked actually multiple times at this point. Nick is actually a high school friend of mine. We graduated together, kind of came through the fire service together on opposite ends of the county.
Yep.
So they're going to join us today and introduce themselves, who they are, where they are, what they do, who they're representing. And we're going to talk about what's this new officer development course that's coming that's going to be held at the Blue Mountain High School. Nick, I don't want to steal your thunder, so you can give all those details. So Nick, why don't you introduce yourself real quick?
Hey guys, Nick Miller, 45 years old here. My 5th year as a fire chief in Northend and Pine Grove. We do about 275 a year calls and roughly about average of 30 to 35 working fires a year. So we're predominantly a truck company. My fire 2 down through pro border pile. A lot of training when I was younger, got married, had kids. Well, we all know where that goes. It's so that's kind of my take. We have about 60 active members on our roster, which is pretty good. And I feel like we're gonna hit some things on this Mad Bell thing that we're gonna like here real quick for you. So
perfect. And in your involvement, what is your involvement with setting up this course?
Oh, so yeah, I guess I forgot about that. Sorry.
No worries.
So about a year ago, the Chiefs Association came to me and asked if I would be interested in being on the SOG committee. And, I've always been dedicated to my own department. And it's really more of, hey, let's keep our progressive going inside the 4 walls. And I think maybe some of that kind of shed a light on some of the upper echelons. And Chief and Gary came to me and asked if I'd be interested in doing this on the SOG committee. I said, Frank, dude, I have a business. I have 3 kids. It's like, I'm running a fire department. It's like, I got a lot going on. And I told him, I said, I'll do it as long as they tell me, hey, when the meetings are out. And he goes, I'll do you one better. I'll make you the committee chairman. I was like, okay. All right. And so we took it from there. And so the SOG committee, I picked 5-6 guys on the committee, and they are very aggressive, progressive, knowledgeable fire officers and fire chiefs. And they're all throughout the county. I didn't pick my buddies that are just right around me. I chose guys that I've grown up with. We've trained together over the years, and they had a passion to make this county better. And it was not just for the county, but also for the communities. and ultimately that's where we serve. And I wanted to make sure our communities were served with professionals, volunteers, that were able to handle any circumstances that came at them. And so we started looking at some of the stuff that was, our forefathers said with the SOGs, and started tweaking, getting different things, and it kind of went up for there. But one of my big things that I wanted to do was I saw a need for a development program for officers, because let's face it, in the volunteer world, the long straw wins the vote, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's friends or whatever, but there's no criteria. There's no, you can all wear a white helmet, but we don't know what to do after you get voted in. Some people, and I'm not saying everybody, and please, I don't want to stereotype or make people mad or hurt feelings, but there's a lot of chiefs that have no idea what they're doing, and it's not something that's you can turn and learn overnight. It's not. It's the knowledge that I've gained has been by going to class, learning, and trying to pick up things. Chief Wise has been a big mentor to me, and the first class I had with Chief Wise was, I think he was a lineman or something, a truckman at Harrisburg, and he did a ladder class for us. And good dude, new as shit stuff. Sorry.
No, you're good. No worries.
So it was one of those things, and we got a class with them. 22 Muir, Porter Township had him in for the first time. My guys and I went up, and I'm like, dude, this concept's banging. And I brought it to the SOG committee, and they were like, well, how much does it cost? Of course, everything revolves around money. Sure. And kind of worked it out. And
Peach Red Bull.
What's that?
And Peach Red Bull.
Well, yeah. I mean, essentially, we got the support from the higher ups. We had some money allocated through some money or relief or whatever they do, and here we are. And it was something that was like, I brought up the first SOG meeting. We've been doing it for a year. We do meet for like 3-4 hours every month, and you're seeing a difference. And I think this is going to be pretty cool stuff that we're going to do here.
That's perfect. That sets the tone perfect for Floyd. So Floyd, give us introduce yourself, please. I mean, I know who you are, and I think most people are going to know when they see the name, but give us a rundown of who you are, where you come from, what you do, and then let's talk about what you're coming to Schuylkill County for.
Okay. So obviously my name's Floyd Wise. Currently, I am employed. I hail from the city of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I work there as the deputy chief of training for the department, the first deputy chief of training that the department has ever had. This is my 25th year with the city of Harrisburg, so that has obviously afforded me a lot of opportunities to gain skill and mostly experience from a lot of different tiers, right? I've worked as a firefighter and those challenges. I've worked as a company officer, those different challenges. I've worked at the shift leader supervisor level with those challenges. And now as a deputy chief, kind of living through city management and seeing what that pertains to. I do have some background in the volunteer community before I became a career firefighter. I was a volunteer firefighter for like 6 or 7 years in the testing process. So I do have a little bit of that, in the institutional knowledge of differences between the career and the volunteer segments and challenges that come with that. And I think in that is where the training is coming from. And I don't want to get too deeply into like my skill sets at the moment, because that's going to come out probably during the 8-hour class. But here's the dynamics that I think are going on. And I'm going to speak about it from two different paradigms. I'm going to speak about it individually on the individual growth skill set, and I'm going to speak about it regionally and some of the dynamics that are occurring in regions all throughout Pennsylvania, and quite frankly, all throughout the nation. This is occurring, and people are looking at things differently. Individually, I have learned, and I'll say somewhat the hard way, it takes a very unique skill set to manage an organized fireground, right? To manage an organized incident, right? And it is not something that you gain by voting. It is something you gain by knowledge and experience, right? There is a skill set to the person in charge of an incident. So that's why I designed this program that I'm going to present, because and then obviously I work with Nick Martin and Combat Ready, and I believe that we have to deliberately encourage and enhance people's knowledge, and we have to in their perspectives of how to manage an incident. Right, we have to give them a toolbox. All right, we have to give them a system, a policy, and a procedure of how we're going to do this and I want to emphasize the word organized. Right, that's we're already going to come to the fire that's disorganized.
Yep.
We want to bring some organization with that, right? And there's a way to do that. So individually, I think we have a lot of officers who probably learned on the job, right? They learned trial and error. They went out, they tried something, it worked, it didn't work. I think there's probably a lot of officers that have gotten away with a lot of things because they haven't experienced a failure. They think that they have it all figured out, right? But they really haven't been tested. So that's why I want to speak individually to that kind of that training, that growth, that knowledge, the knowledge, skills, abilities. But more than that, there's a couple of regional things that we have to look at. In my area in Harrisburg, I'll speak about my city. And then we can talk, in this case, we're going to be in Schuylkill County presenting my program and talking a little bit about this regional concept. In my city right now, even though 20 years ago, we went to fires within our city. Our staff fought fires in the city of Harrisburg. We did very little mutual aid response. Mutual aid was coming in to assist us, right? So it was always our ball game. Probably over the last 10, 11 years now, we're starting to do probably as much mutual aid work with our outside partners than we've ever done. So now we're going to the away game almost every day, and we have to function with these other agencies that in the past we never really had a relationship with, right? So we need to come with them and coordinate with them and support how they would like to run their fire grounds, right? So I see this change where we're no longer just the city of Harrisburg now, but we're a regional partner, right? We're coming if there's a fire anywhere surrounding my city, one or two of my units are going almost immediately, and that's a good thing, right? We send our staff out to support those communities, and we want to be a willing neighbor. That's a good thing. We'll be a willing neighbor. So think about Schuylkill County, with the loss of volunteers, the waning number of volunteers. You probably now are calling more fire apparatus to the scene of a fire than ever before,
Yep.
from further away than you've ever called, just to get the critical number of personnel to do core fireground functions, right? So if we're no longer going to work and function within our little environment of our organization, we're going to function with multiple organizations, then we need to start to look at things from a more systems side of the house, right? We have to come up with regional policy concepts, which is similar to what Nick was speaking about and working with a regional or county-wide policy development. Dauphin County, we have the same exact thing going on. We've developed a county-wide policy development group that I sit on that committee. Chief Graham is the chair, and we're trying to come up with a kind of a common terminology, common tasks understood ahead of time. And we've been working through that slowly. It's a slow process, right, to develop good policy. But I think that when you look at it, we have to be under the realization that you are no longer going to go to a fire by yourself, right? So we're going to invite our partners. We have two choices. We can go to that ball game with a plan or without a plan. We can come with a plan that we all can fall in and make it smooth, or we can basically reinvent the wheel on every single fire. And that makes absolutely no sense, right? That doesn't make any sense. So my program, basically, the crux of my program is to look at this system, which, by the way, I didn't come up with. This is a system that throughout the South is used, and even through Maryland and any major metropolitan cities use this and use it every day, multiple times a day, functionally, and it's proven itself. Those that are mostly unwilling to examine it are those that are in fear of change and probably don't really understand the benefits of it.
Amen.
So the purpose of my program is to come in and really kind of delayer this system, look at the parts of it, what makes it up, what do we need in place, how do we make it work across our mutual aid partners, that we go to tough incidents, we can approach that with an organized mindset.
Amazing. It's I think one of the things in our area that has really shed a light on the necessity for this is the unfortunate incident in Nutropoli. That really sort of set the tone for what do we need to do to get everybody on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, it's somewhat unfortunate that, and like we hear it all the time, like, man, do we have to kill a firefighter around here to make changes? And as sad as that is, look, the details for that incident have not been released yet. I understand the document is written. I don't know when that'll be released. Um, I'm sure there'll be some telling things in there, and I can almost guarantee you, and I've not heard anything about the document, but I can guarantee Incident Command is going to end up as one of those line items as a recommendation, right? So that's why I feel so passionately about this. And quite frankly, I was fortunate that Nick Martin grabbed me as an instructor, and because I was so deep into this and I believe in this, and understand I came from a department that traditionally does not have a strong incident command system. As it is today, we do not have a strong defined method of how everyone is going to manage an incident. And that is I call that a personal failure for me, in the agency that I'm like, this is my bailiwick, and in my own agency, I'm not able to affect that change and make it more consistent. Now we'll see what the future holds, but I feel strongly about this, that look, if we're going to place people on emergency incidents in a high risk, lethal environment, then we better put everything in place to provide for organization and accountability and safety for those personnel, right? And having strong incident command and a number of other things that we're going to talk about are the way to develop that.
Yeah, Frank, off that, I agree 100. I'm bought in on the system already, and Floyd knows that. I mean, we probably talk on a very regular basis. But the fire service itself is very reactive. We react to everything. We're never proactive about any situation. And I mean, you can tell, and it's nothing against anybody who's running anything.
No,
but that incident happened. It was, God bless him. I'm glad I wasn't there, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and let me preface before we go too deep into that topic, and we don't have to in detail. This is not a knock on anyone. Incident command, our members of our department were there. I was not. Excuse me. But I just want to make sure, because it may get out. I want the people who are affected by that fire to understand that, like, this podcast, this topic,
Right,
this officer development stuff, it's in support of that situation,
right,
to ensure that it never, fingers
Frank,
crossed,
Frank, can I jump in on that real quick? Just throw
Yeah.
my 2 cents in.
Yeah.
Look, you could go to a fire today with the best firefighters, the best fire apparatus, the most dialed in policies, the best incident commander, the best company officers in the world, and just have some random happenstance occurs where someone gets injured or, God forbid, killed, right? So, an organization that suffers a line of duty death, that we should not necessarily crucify them, but what we should do is study those things so that we can grow from that, right? And we know through the history of these line of duty deaths that incident command accountability and that is always like on the surface of some of the contributing, not all the factors, there's many other factors, but there's contributing factors. So I think that when we look at this, it's not so much to condemn, but we need to grow from that, right? These are our opportunities to say, hey, what could we have put in place, or what should we put in place so that we avoid this in the future? Now, is that guarantee that it'll never happen again? No, there's no guarantee. I got news for everybody on the podcast. Somewhere in the United States, but in this week, we're probably going to injure or kill a firefighter in what we do. It's a dangerous, risky world we live in, but we want to try to put in as much good management, good supervision, good leadership, and good organization, and then hopefully minimize it.
The hard thing is it's like I always say this: you put it on the table, you make dinner, you got to let them eat. If they're not willing to eat this information and digest it,
yeah,
there's
You can
only
lead a
so much
horse
you
to
can
water,
do.
you can't force it to drink.
Yep.
And I always say that
Yeah.
with anything,
Yeah.
even Roby firemen coming in, hey, this is what we want. This is what, we expect. You have to put the time in. You put the time in, you get out what you put into it. I've always said that from ground A to B.
Our
That's just
fire
in life in
chief,
general.
our fire chief, Scott Rarick, he says all the time, we're really good at coming up with ideas, but the volunteer fire service and our department specifically, he talks about, and he's not wrong, he's 100% correct. We're not great at implementation.
Yeah.
Correct.
Also, and maybe it's an unfortunate characteristic of the volunteer fire service, because people come from all walks of life. And we were having a discussion. There's a local department. They have a really they've had a rough go of bringing in membership and training and stuff in years past. They've really gotten over that hump, but they have really young chiefs. And you know what? Kudos to them.
Right.
They're the best place they've probably have been in 2 decades plus that I've been around, even though they have young, inexperienced chiefs per se. I'm not, again, it's not a knock, but now, you guys, Nick, you go out, become the chair of this SOG committee, implement this officer development, and then we bring in somebody like Floyd, who has been through the volunteer fire service. Now we just take that department and we make them better and
Right.
safer, and let's be realistic about it. It's for the community that we're doing this.
Yep.
Yeah, correct.
It's not just we're trying to make better line officers because just because you're a line officer, and it includes myself, it doesn't mean that you know everything. And
Right.
it doesn't matter how many years, we should always be students of the game.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Learning every day, man. I always say that to you.
Wonderful. So we've kind of accomplished a lot in a very short amount of time, and this doesn't have to go forever, but that's fine. What are some of the hot ticket bullet point things that you, Floyd, plan to hit without going into detail? Because we want people to come to this and pay attention to it.
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that. That's a great question. Everybody would think, right? The title of my program that I offer is called Beyond Sidewalk Supervision, right? And even though that's kind of a corny title, I developed that early on. And once you take my program, you kind of understand where it comes from, where the title comes from. I wish I could have thought of something a little more catchy. I probably could, but I just never had that time to refine it. And I've delivered this program. I don't even know many times. So I just never really went back to it. The concept is this, right? Everybody would think that, like, coming from a deputy chief or a battalion chief, that the whole program would be centered towards putting a chief in command of an incident at some location, and that's the whole conversation. And it's not. Believe it or not, my class is going to talk a little bit about the incident commander. I mean, we're obviously going to go into his job role and what that means to be in command and all those things, and we'll dig into that. But my conversation is we're going to talk about accountability systems, what they are and what they're not, how we have bastardized that concept. We are going to talk a lot about a division officer, right? Breaking incidents down into smaller areas. And if you're in charge of that area, how did you get there and what do you do? We are going to talk a tremendous amount about fireground communications. And I say communications, I mean organized fireground communications that are predetermined, what you will and will not say, what needs to be said, mandated, and what's not to be said. We will dig into Mayday management, like how to simplify the Mayday. After I explain how this incident command system rolls, it kind of stands up and how it's running. When I introduce the concept of the Mayday, it really minimizes what we've labeled it as, right? So I'm going to talk about organization of the rapid intervention team. I'm going to go into rehab. It gets into like a lot of bigger things. Tactical worksheets, for example. When I say tactical worksheets, a lot of people are like, well, what's that? And I'm like, well, that's how we're tracking our companies, right? How you're tracking what you're doing. And I'm a little bit of a geekazoid on tactical worksheets. I just made one today. Actually, I finished it today for the chief's aide, right? A chief's aide position. What is the worksheet for the chief aide? What do they need to be working on, right? Like a checklist. Again, I'm a systems thinker, And I think that checklists are helpful, especially for new incident commanders, right? And that's the other part of this is you would think this conversation is just about that day we're just going to talk to the chiefs in the county, and most likely there'll be a lot of those chiefs there. But this conversation with the chiefs can't be effective in a command role if the companies and the firefighters aren't effective and knowledgeable at how to support the command system.
Correct.
So you just can't have a bunch of chiefs that run command. The companies have to fall into job roles as well. So we even discussed what we call predetermined assignments or pre-arrival assignments, and how that helps to support good command. So my program is going to go down a number of different avenues that really, for the most part, don't have anything to do with chief officers, which is odd because coming from a chief that's trying to sell the complexity of incident command, I'm actually going to sell the fact that as the incident commander, the least amount of the burden is on you.
Yeah, and I guess also what you're doing is you're setting the tone for those chief officers that are attending the seminar, and it's not going to be just chiefs. You're going to have captains, lieutenants, and stuff like this at this.
Right.
But what you're doing is you're setting the tone for what the expectation is for the upcoming. So our department takes from that seminar, comes back, and then we share that with the lower level chiefs that aren't there, or lieutenants, junior line officers, down to engineers, and then firefighters. So that because in the volunteer fire service, you never know if you're a senior member, you may end up in that office.
If you're enjoying this podcast, getting something out of it, or think that it's worthwhile, listen. One, go share it and follow all the pages and share social medias. Two, check out our Teespring store. Link will be in the bio and information for this podcast, and buy a t-shirt to help support the podcast and Orangeburg Fire Department.
Officer seat. You have to be able to, you have to be able to talk on the radio effectively and give instruction to the guys in the back. Like I don't, and not everybody has that, and it could be a confidence level thing, maybe a lack of experience thing. But if we're hopefully, and maybe I'm a little outside of where this seminar is going to go, but hopefully we're getting the start of the necessary tools to start passing that down in a systems format, as opposed to just relying on a chief that has a lot of experience and happens to be good at talking.
Look, in that room, I'm sure I'm going to have a lot of experienced chiefs in there that have gone to a lot of fires, right?
Right.
Well, much like myself, we all have a shelf life, right? There is going to be a time, and I don't know what my shelf life is. There's going to be a time I want to go to the beach, and I'm going to stay at the beach, right? So in my time in that room, there's captains and lieutenants that are the next generation of incident commanders. What can we do to get them experience via sets and reps, so that when they are either voted or nominated or selected to be in the car, they're prepared, they have some experience. I was I'd say an example of not necessarily, I had no formal incident command experience in stepping into the role of being responsible for the entire city of Harrisburg. That's a real problem, right? That is not how to run a business, right? You would not select someone to be a CEO if they didn't have some level of education of what a CEO does. At least your company probably wouldn't do well. And I think in the fire service, we think it's okay to put people in these positions unprepared, and then we say things, we use things like, don't worry, you'll figure it out. And that is not an acceptable mechanism, right? We need to give them good policy, good training, good expectations, and then maybe throw in a mix of some simulations or some opportunity to just get a taste of it before they get to the ball game.
Outstanding.
Yeah, I think just going off that, I mean, I don't have my expertise isn't near as much as Floyd's. So, but I've learned a lot over the years, and I think with what he said is exactly what I was kind of getting at before with the we're reactive to the situation, and there and I think there's going to be a lot of eyes open, and there could be some hurt feelings February 1st. And it's nothing to get anything personal. It's just it's being able to adapt and accept change. Yeah. Has it worked? And I'm going to take this time. I'm going to say this very openly, and I'm going to take the words out of Floyd's mouth. We've been very, very lucky.
Yeah.
Lucky over the last and I'm doing this since I'm 14. I'm 30. So what? I don't know, 25, 30 years. We're very, very lucky. And we're lucky in the position that we haven't had more injuries, deaths, or etc. And I hear a lot of county, chiefs listen to the Scanner app a lot, and there's a lot of screaming, yelling, calm, cool, collective chiefs. There's a lot of screaming, yelling. It's like, all right, guys, just take a deep breath and step back. Step back. We didn't start the fire. We got to figure out, we got to do risk over reward, do your tactical worksheet, which, tactical worksheets have been a godsend for most chiefs that want to learn it. I've used my tactical worksheets on the stupidest of stupid fires, low budget incidents even. Did I do a 360? Did I make sure, everything's in check? It's a simple task. We had a smoke in a structure the other night. I had everything laid out already. And I get looked at. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, it's reps. It's reps. I'm getting reps.
Funny. It's funny you're talking about that, because we talked about at our line officer meeting about deploying dry lines more often than not, and doing it on AFAs, smoke investigations. And the other night we didn't do one. We actually had a call. I actually called on the radio, and that's that. Floyd, I don't know how you guys do in Harrisburg. We have Fire South and we have B1, and we're switching back and forth. Sometimes communication gets lost in that. I kind of wish we would go away from it. That's just my personal feelings. And it's because I feel like it's become more of a hindrance, and not, I didn't hear you. Oh, I was on the other channel, or I was talking on their channel, so I'm not going to hear you even if I'm on scan. And we run into that a lot in Schuylkill County. A lot in my own department. And it happened the other night because I was the officer on the engine, and I said I called our chief, and I looking for an assignment, which I probably shouldn't have to do, but I don't know what he was doing at the time, and we were getting close. And I was like, I said something in regards to like requesting permission to pull a dry line or something like that. And but he never got back to me. We pulled in, we got ready, we did everything, and my guy was standing on a tailboard, full pack, got off the truck, mask on, ready to go.
Yep.
Even that's a rep. Even though we didn't pull the line, that's a rep. So Nick, I think we're all, a lot of us are starting to get on the same page unknowingly, not having this conversation previously.
Right.
And, hopefully I think one of the other challenges with stuff like that is you go to an away game, or you have people coming to your game.
Right.
You want them to be on the same page.
And it's a struggle. And Floyd hit it pretty hard there with the volunteer and Harrisburg going out and playing in other sandboxes. And it's hard because you don't want to go out there and step on toes, to a mutual aid department. And honestly, my department would probably run 40% mutual aid just because of the truck. But they know what our job is. What I mean? We're not calling for an assignment. Hey, we're the first arriving truck. That's our job. First arriving engine, grabbing a hydrant. You're going to do fire attack. So it's really more, how do you say, it's getting people in the progressive and muscle memory of doing the same thing over and over and over again. Was it really needed to deploy a dry line? No, but it's a pain in the neck to repack it. But it's reps. You're gaining that experience. Right. You have guys coming in and out of essentials or Delmores, whatever they call it today, and they're learning what they learn on a complete control environment, where your lights are blowing, your sirens are, everything's going to your mind. They're excited. I've watched a lot of kids come up through, and I'm showing my age there a little bit, but I've watched a lot of kids come up through, and they're like deer in headlights. If you give them a task inside that cab, whether it's a riding assignment or whatever the officer gives it to them, they're learning, they're gaining that knowledge. Okay, boom, I'm out, I'm tagging the hydrant, I'm pulling the line, I'm doing this, I'm grabbing the can, I'm grabbing the tick, whatever. It's you gotta muscle memory and keep doing reps. And it's the same old thing.
Chief, you hit the nail on the head when it comes to simple things like that, even setting up command, right? If just think about in some organizations, and again, I don't know everybody in Schuylkill County, but I'll just think about my region. If you only ever set up a formal command, right? If you only ever did all my things that I believe in on work and fires, for some communities, you may only practice that once or twice a year,
Yeah.
right? Similarly, no different than pulling a hand line. If we have a young firefighter and we tell that young firefighter, hey, I only want you to pull a hand line on working fires, some of these young guys that need experience, they may only get one line a year. How good are you going to be at something that you do one time a year in the environment where it is high risk, high demand, and it has to be done right now? Like that's not a great way to do business.
That's funny. That's exactly what led to the conversation, Floyd. That's exactly what it was. We have these young guys, 19, 20, 21, these guys that have been through fire one, structural burn, and a handful of times have they seen even smoke in a house.
Right.
Pulling a hose line with a full pack and a mask on is a lot different than pulling it at the station or in a drill, just willy-nilly pulling it off, learning how to pull a Minuteman load. It's a different animal. And that's where this conversation, I was like, guys, it's not about just pulling the line. There's so much more. The habit of you got a guy pulling a line, two guys grabbing tools, somebody with a can, and an officer getting off with a tick and whatever else we need to carry in with us. There's so much more to it. So, hey, if we can do this on the gajillion AFAs that we have every
and at the end of the day, what does it hurt? Like
nothing.
Like you're just gonna pack some hose back on and go back to the firehouse. And like at the most, you probably expended at the most an additional 15 minutes out of your day.
Right.
Probably.
Yeah. I've gotten to the point, guys, and you know, and I'm fortunate, you know, and I always say this, people are like, how you do it? I'm fortunate to have a growing crew of young members. But I'm to the point with my officers, I'm like, yo, let them pull a line. Don't even touch a line. You grab a tick and you go in and supervise. That's it. Even on a car fire, I'm like, supervise. I want you to supervise, you know, and it's hard to break that trend, because even I like get my yummy just as much as the next guy, you know. So it's like, I still have a pulse, so I want to do stuff, but you have to put a mindset of, oh, these guys are growing, these guys are these are coming up, and you have to be able to do that. And in the volunteer world, it's not always like that, because you don't know who you're getting, and that's the hard part. You know, you don't know who you're getting that day, and it's a struggle. Where even, you know, in Harrisburg, I mean, you have three guys riding an engine, four guys on a truck,
right?
You know your set crew, you know who you took, your can man, your OVM, you know they're going to be doing what they're doing, and you know, it's hard for me to do that. Even with our junior program, we've established a very strong junior program, and you know, I put myself out there a few times, you know, where I've probably pushed the envelope of, you know, I should be in trouble for this, you know, but it's something that, you know, I feel I'm very passionate about, is bringing these young people up. And, you know, guys took the time when I was a kid. Was it right? It got me started. It laid the foundation around, you know. Now it's time to grow and you know, set the tone for the other guys.
You know, Nick, you brought that up right there. You just hit the nail on the head, right? Like a guy like you as a fire chief, you've got, like, and I'll go back to what I said before, an expiration date, right? I have 10 more years to try to influence and impact the next generation of people that are my replacement. And I think it's my responsibility, given the blessings that I've had for experience and growth and professional development with a lot of really talented people, to try to pass on whatever venue I can find, whatever audience is willing to listen. I try to pass on, because eventually my voice will become, I don't want to say quiet in the fire service, but you know, I'm past my prime, and then it's somebody else's job role. So that's why I take these programs pretty serious with, and I think that day, you know, people got to come with an open mind, right? Because listen, I am coming there for one reason. I am coming there to challenge the status quo. That's how I've been in my entire career. I've always challenged the status quo. No matter how we do things, is it still the right way to do things? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But people that day, if they're going to come to have me tell them that they're doing it wrong and it's correct, that's not going to happen. I'm going to offer options, and they just need to say, hey, does that option fit us in our region or not? And they can consider it. They may say, hey, we can't do that. Okay. But they need to be open-minded to at least understand that I am going to challenge the status quo.
Right. And I think,
oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Frank. I'm sorry. Go ahead,
I was just going to say, like, you're sticking up for what you believe in.
Right.
And sometimes people is like, you're questioning it or you're undermining, and they're like, no, I'm like, if you're passionate about something and you feel like something, we have a way to improve this or be better, or, you know, not make a mistake in the future, then you need to stand up for those things. And that's across the board. It's outside of the fire service, but in
Absolutely.
the volunteer world, sometimes it looks negative because you're constantly questioning or trying to find a better way or calling a spade at times.
Right.
It's not because, as long as you're not doing it for, what's the word, personal reasons, you need to be doing it for the betterment of your department.
Yeah. I mean, earlier on, you said something, and I'm just kind of reflecting on the fact is that, like, we need to achieve a professional standard in the fire service, and it is not based off career or volunteer. Career or volunteer has nothing to do with it otherwise than your compensation and maybe your benefits package. The professional standard is the level of service, the quality of service, and the time the service is delivered that the community expects from us. They already expect that from us, right? And we've kind of sold them that they can count on us. But in some communities, I think we kind of need that gut check of, can the community really count on us? Can they? Like, we have to be honest with ourselves. And if they can't, then we have to repair that now before we lose total confidence of our community.
And anymore with social media, professionalism goes well beyond the fire service.
Look, we
It
are
goes
under
well
a
beyond
microscope.
the station.
You're under the microscope every day, every action, whether it's a public interaction, at a community level, at the emergency level. Again, our standard needs to be more stringent now than it's ever been.
Man, you guys sound like I feel like I just was at our drill the other night. I said the exact same, almost verbatim. It is the truth. It could be a post on Facebook about how you don't like rainbows. That reflects the fire service. If
We're not talking. You're talking about actual rainbows. Let's just clarify, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like Skittles and rain. I shouldn't have said.
Yes. Yeah.
I didn't mean.
Let's go back. I might edit that out. I don't know.
You could be talking
that
about
up a little.
You could be like My Little Ponies. How's that?
Yeah, that's better. That's better.
I don't know. I could offend, and I apologize. That wasn't anything.
I know it's fine.
But,
it's good.
But you could be making a derogatory comment about a My Little Pony stall, and dude, that could come back and reflect on the fire department.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It drives me. Like I tell my guys on TikTok, like they're all about TikTok. I'm not a social media guru. I can't stand it. I'm lucky to get to eBay anymore. But they literally like TikTok and this and that, and I'm like, guys, you have to have the mindset that your bosses, and I say bosses, your community is going to see this, and it's going to reflect. And keep in mind, we're 100% nonprofit, 100% fundraising, and 100% fund driven. I said, they're going to see this and they go, well, those jackasses down at Northend, they don't like My Little Pony dolls, you know. And it's like, it's not anything. It's just how we are. It is.
Yeah.
And we're all rough around the skin. And I often say, like, to be in the position that we're in as a chief, you're not just you could be the best nozzleman in the world or the best truckman, but you better have some social skills and understand how to manipulate and use people to their best and most peaked advantages.
Yeah.
And it's there. And I know this sounds really raw to me to say, but our personnel are tools. And I know this sounds dumb.
No, you're right.
But personnel are tools, and you have to work those tools to your best advantage. If you're weak in a topic or a subject, like me, I'm just saying, I'm using me as an example. If I'm weak in a topic, which I am, I bring in those people that are very strong in it. Ropes, forget it. I suck at ropes. I hate them.
Meanwhile, that's the thing that's one of the things I'm strong at.
I hate it.
I absolutely love it.
I'm lucky to tie a one-handed bowling. Like, you know, but I have 6-7 guys that are just bastards at freaking knots, and they're just phenomenal. And they're like, "What do you think about this, Chief?" I don't know. Sounds good. Will it work? Great. Hope you're on the call because I'm screwed if you're not. I said,
right.
You know? It's just how it is, and it's. You know, and I think where I wanted to go with this, I'm kind of getting off I'm going in that rabbit hole. But okay. With Floyd, you know, I've admired him. I've looked up to Floyd on a lot of stuff, and don't let your head get too big, man. But, you know, we at Northend have built this concept, or have taken and embraced this concept. And I'm finally getting it deployed, getting it where the other departments are figuring it out. Or, you know, and I said this when he did the classes. I said, well, you have two choices: either figure it out or go home. And that's where we're at. And I'm not saying this is the end all, the best all, or whatever the case may be, but it works. It's tried and true. It works. It saves accountability. It saves the safety officer. Your division officers are going to be doing safety and accountability.
Chief, the other side of it too is really, I mean, honestly, how complex is this system to operate? Look, what we do in the fire service, and I say this generically, what we do in the fire service is very easy. Mm-hmm. Right? What we do is easy. We don't build rockets, right? We're not re-engineering bridges. Like we don't perform high-level mathematical equations. But what makes it complex is the environment that we do it in and the level of coordination of different resources. That's what makes it complex. The actual mechanisms are very easy to understand at a high level. Right. So the system that I believe in and that I explain, it's simple, and because it's simple, it works on a fire ground, right? Because our fire grounds are fast and dynamic. This is a simple system. Complex things don't work with what we do, so I steered away from that. And again, cities like DC, into Virginia, deep into the South, into the Midwest. This is how departments operate. It's big departments, metropolitan departments, much bigger than mine will ever be. And so this is a little bit of a mindset shift, where a lot of the Northeast departments are still commanding fires in a
less than efficient way.
Less than efficient. They're not that I should say they're not efficient, because they do it every day, but there are force multipliers that I'm going to try to sell.
Yeah. No,
don't let the cat out the bag.
No, yeah, let's not do that. We shouldn't. That was not the goal of this in any way, shape, or form. But it's almost a teaser of sorts. Mm-hmm. It's a message to say, hey, this is the direction that we have to go. Yes, we're volunteers. Yes, we all live our lives and we do our own things. But the fact of the matter is once we get on an apparatus and we're going to help someone, we want to function as one as best as we can. Right. We almost have to share a brain.
You know what? In a lot of ways, we need to, and this is not just in the volunteer community, but I experienced this even in the city of Harrisburg. We have to break down the geographic barriers, mm-hmm. and begin to look at ourselves as a larger, more metropolitan fire department. Even if our fire truck colors are different, our numbers are different, our door logos are different, that's okay. That's a great way. We have to look at the response side on from a much wider scope.
Yeah. Regionally, I think, regionally, in our areas, regionally, it's like southern, northern. It's always that barrier with Schuylkill County, south of the mountain, north of the mountain, and it's a struggle because there's some damn good firemen on both sides of that mountain, right? And sure. Damn good chiefs up there and line officers, and and I'll go to bat for any one of them all day long. But to break that barrier, I mean, it's so hard. Well, your trucks are different colors and you talk differently than we do. We like kielbasa, you like summer sausage. It's the same thing. It's like, it's not. It's what it is.
That's a good point.
I don't really understand that analogy.
No, you don't. Really I do. And everyone who listens to it from Schuylkill County will understand it. It's just, but no, you're right. We had this, ironically, at our line officer meeting, we had this discussion about put a whole bunch of type A people in the same emotionally charged situation. Communication and professionalism is the only thing that's going to get you through that effectively. And when communication breaks down, people get hurt. Yep. When professionalism, and there's moments where you might have to go outside that box if there's imminent danger or there's safety issues or whatever. But we had this exact discussion about, you put a bunch of type A people to do it one way from one station and a bunch of type A people to do it another way from another station. And then sooner or later, you might cross where this happens. Mm-hmm. And the goal is to, let's not be that way. Right. Let's function as a unit together.
There's a lot. Good stuff. A lot of compromise. You have to be willing, and I see it a lot because, and I struggle with this, the struggle for me is my age, and I know that sounds weird.
Same.
But I have a lot of older chiefs that have a lot of and they got a lot of good fires in their belts. And they kind of like, they're like, what do you think? I'm like, what I would have done it a little differently, but that's me. That's just how I look at things. And it's a struggle because everybody has a different end goal. It's the same. It's the end goal, but there's different ways of getting to that end goal. And it's, if you can make a pattern, make it somewhat universal, so to speak,
like
and
a
that's
pre-plan almost.
Well, yeah, even, and this is really off topic, but one of the things that SOG committee was talking about was pre-arrival assignments. And I looked at them going, I put my head down. I'm like, this is never going to work in Schuylkill County because you have way different cultures, different cultures inside of firehouses. And, it's some.
Yeah, we are way off topic, but that's a good point though, because, and like Chief Wise doesn't really experience this as far as numbers of responders, but we do all the time. You don't know if you're getting from a department one person, it's only a driver, or you're getting a crew of 6 that's ready to go inside. So that's a huge barrier in a volunteer fire service to try to circumvent and fill assignments, and that's where that becomes a challenge. But hey, you guys that wear the white helmets are the ones that get to solve those problems, not me. But anyways, we definitely more than covered what the goal was of the podcast. That's okay. But is there anything else that you guys want to try to promote or get out there before we kind of wrap this up? You good, Nick?
I just, for me, it's keep training, keep grinding, and I keep telling my guys the same thing. And I'm blessed. I always say that I'm blessed to have a crew of knowledgeable, hungry, eager, keep grinding, nose down guys, that we get to the job and do it. And they're always thirsty for more knowledge. And, it's tough because we have, it's not our career, it's not, but in a sense it is, it's a hobby that has taken on more, I can't get enough knowledge. I think this is gonna be my 4th time at Floyd, and every time he tweaks it, gets a little better. And it's not, I don't got a man crush on Floyd or nothing, but
we're talking about rainbows.
Yeah, well, Skittles and rainbows.
Point that out.
Yep.
It's 2024.
It's all good.
You can't swim nothing. But you gotta want to learn. You gotta want to put the time in. And I say that to people all the time. Whatever the amount of time you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. Whether it's wanting to be a line officer, how much you're going to come back from the call and sit in your duff on the back seat and just watch the rest of the guys clean hose and air packs. I'm like, and it happens. We struggle with it, and it's frustrating because the next meeting, they're like, hey, I'd really like to be considered for a line officer position. Well, it's hard to do that. It's hard for as a chief or a line officer to accept that role, and say, hey, yeah, you're ready. And nobody's really ready for this position. They're not.
Sure.
They're not.
Floyd, how about you? Anything you want to close up with?
I would say for that day, February 1st, I really want everyone to come, number one, with an open mind, right? Be willing to ask questions, right? This is it's not just a lecture. This is a discussion, right? So we can discuss a concern, or if there is a question, like help us develop. That's the reason I'm there, is to make this effective for the chiefs of Schuylkill County. It's not to reinforce what I already know works in my area. It's to help you find your solution. That would be the biggest thing I would say. Just come with that open mind, willing to ask some questions, and just listen to the material. Come with a notebook, right? Because most likely, from my experience, what happens in these programs is I'm going to answer a lot of questions, but it's going to trigger a lot more. I'm going to answer some things, but it's going to trigger a lot more questions. So there's going to be a lot of things after the class that you're going to have like, man, there's like 25 more things now that I'd like to know more about. And obviously I'm willing to follow up with whatever needs addressed.
Perfect. Nick, just give us the details on the event, please.
So February 1st, it's going to be at the Blue Mountain High School. I don't have the address off the top of my head, but we tried to set it up centrally located for the county, so there was no, any of that. It's from 8 to 4. I could be 8 to 4:30. I don't know, Floyd, if you want to go for lunch. We're having lunch there, light lunch. So you may want to go into the 4:30. I don't know. It's right now we have it open to January 24th. I haven't seen it yet, but I think Thursday it's going to be on the schema website. To register your people. There's going to be a total of 5 officers, chiefs from each company. And then at the 24th, once it closes, I'm hoping all 90 fire departments in this county take the opportunity and send somebody. I really do. At least one representative to at least like kind of sort of digest through it. But you know, after January 24th, we're going to sit down and we're probably going to open it up again if it's not all full, to see, you know, some of the younger guys. You know, it's not, to me, I don't think it's just for the officers. I think it's for the younger corps too, because they're going to be the ones taking and using this course. So yeah, so February 1st, Blue Mountain, 8 a.m. It'll be open. I'm hoping the weather holds up and we're able to do it. And again,
registration, where that's schema.org.
Yeah, schema.org.
That's not open yet, correct?
It is not. No.
Okay.
We met on Friday, got the pamphlet out or the flyer out ready. And we should see that. Like I said, I was hoping it might even be on the site. Usually Bob would have texted me or emailed me, but I didn't see that. So I suspect Thursday or Friday this week. Yeah. And that is the 2nd and 3rd. I would say it's going to be on no later than Friday.
Perfect. And the address is 1076 West Market Street. It's actually a Schuylkill Haven address, 17972. I should know because we go there all the time for AFAs and landing zones and everything else. So, yeah. So everybody that watches this, please check out the schema. I'll make sure that the link to the comment section or the info section of this podcast on YouTube will have the link for sign up in it. It'll have the link for Floyd's information where you can follow him, and any whatever, Floyd, you can send me that stuff that you're involved in that you want other people to see or have access to, because you are not, your days are numbered and you have things you have to do after you retire. So we want to promote those.
Floyd sounds like he's writing you off, bro.
Whatever. Hey,
negative.
Whatever.
Negative.
What they say, just tell me what time you want me out and what door you want me out of.
That's perfect.
We'll hook you up. Don't worry.
Oh my God. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for this impromptu podcast. I haven't done one, and I was like, this is a perfect way or reason to pick up and record another one, because there's no financial gain for me for this stuff. This actually is a fundraiser in some aspects for my fire department, because I will be putting a link to buy t-shirts, sweatshirts, whatever you want, both in support of the Mad Bell podcast. That money all goes to my fire department, which is the Orangeburg Fire Department. It's not a lot. We don't make it a whole lot, but if you want a t-shirt or whatever, you can go to that link and purchase one, and that helps support us and our future endeavors with a hopeful soon new fire station and a big old rescue pumper that's on its way from Pierce.
Nice.
So that's it. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Happy New Year to you. And